Maleficent from 2014, an import from the UK that, at least the 3D disc, is region-free. Now, nothing puts a shudder of fear down my spine like a Disney remake from the modern era. But my fears proved wrong. Maleficent is rather magnificent. The 3D, the cinematography, and yes, even the story hit it out of the park. This may be the first Disney remake that actually improved on the original. The cinematography is so stunning that the 3D conversion almost feels incidental. It's a great example of how photography and stereo are interlocked in the effect on the brain. I think I'd be a lot more nitpicky about the stereo if there was nothing to see. If the images were boring to begin with, then I'd want the stereo to pick up the slack. As it is, this movie could be framed and hung on a wall. It's a beautiful, surreal work of art that is, well, enchanting. Occasionally, we get a shot that is mostly a shallow two-layer stereo image, yet it still works. It absolutely works. One of the reasons it works is many of these two-layer moments push the background deeply into the screen, so you get enormous separation between the foregrounds and, say, perhaps some mountains in the back. When in the forest, we get mostly terrific and detailed separation of trees and branches. True, it is often selective. It is only for a certain sampling of the terrain, but again, it works. Often imperfect, but it chooses its targets wisely and delivers an unoffensive stereo scene that often just feels right. These shots of these thickets never really gave me the feeling that I was looking into the thorns. We see the stereo mostly in things that are standing in front of it. But for what we get, it's really not bad at all. Overall, it's all neither grand or over the top, but it gives a just enough effect to immerse me into the movie. Notice this wonderful yet simple moment of a face behind a screen. We see its frame given some nice, almost macro lens detail that helps provide us with a window-type feeling to the moment. And I just have to point out they have some wonderful mirror shots in this movie that always look fantastically magical. And here we have a bird flying behind a clothesline, which makes for an interesting stereo experience. We cross over from looking slightly past the blankets to tracking a shadow on them, all while the wind flaps the fabric a little into the foreground, just kind of tickling our eyes. In the matter of a moment, we are invited to traverse the entire stereo stage, yet the shot feels tranquil, almost serene. There are swooping flight over water shots that feel like we jumped into Avatar. Indeed, it's hard not to believe the land of the fairies was not at least a little inspired by Pandora. This is mostly an observer's movie, a movie of dialogue, of experience and exploration inside of a new, fantastic world. Though it's not a long movie, its pace feels very gentle, and that too helps with the stereo experience. 3D likes it slow, as I've said many, many times. Yet, at the end, they do squeeze a lot of action into the very end of the movie. I forget if it was 10 or 20 minutes. We get a big dragon slightly poking its head out and giving us plenty of fireworks. Though enjoyable, it all felt a little tacked on. For me, the story ended on a sweet and poignant moment, and this all felt like a something else. Now, story-wise, it's typical modern Disney. Men are either incompetent or monsters, but for once they finally found a story that fits that perspective well. It's a very effective movie that is both moving and exciting, and has the lesson that the person most likely to get caught in a trap is the builder of that same trap. I suppose it's also a good lesson for all the doomcocks of the world that argue that a story based on the so-called woke values cannot be good, that somehow there are fundamental truths that the human spirit responds to, and if these are violated, then a story will be unsatisfying. This, I contend, is not true. Storytelling aptitude is not a test of virtue. Storytelling and salesmanship are the same art. There is a good movie about every possible point of view, which is kind of what makes them dangerous.